most of my stories are like 95% true.
So you had gotten in trouble with the law, right?
Yeah, I was arrested 13 times.
Attaboy.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. I just know that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But then when I tell my life story and I get into everything, they're like, well, no, it all makes sense why you're broken. And I'm like, cool.
Listen, I don't care what you label me as. Just if you can help me, that would be cool. like I don't. You could call me a schizophrenic. You could call me demon possessed. I'll whatever. Is there a pill?
So you're saying with imposter syndrome, we all have it. We all have those sets where we're like, what am I doing? It's everything's following you.
It's insane.
It's why so much gay. I mean, there's stuff that pops up on my feed. I mean,
you tend to see the things you're thinking about, and
it's
God,
weird.
I miss Pride Month.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I bought some clearance shirts. It was a sale.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. You know where you are, you know why you're here, and we're thankful that you're here. Ratings, reviews, we love them. Go leave them. 5 stars is what we deserve. WatchChad.com is where you'll find me out on the road. It's where the fun stuff is. I am on the road bouncing around. Some cool stuff coming up, actually. It'd be even cooler if we sold some tickets. It's a lot more fun when you're trying to tell jokes and there's actually people there to hear them. So I'd love it if you come and hung out with me. We'll have a good time, guaranteed. You're not getting a refund if you didn't. Let's just put it that way. And I will tell you that if you've never been out to a comedy room or theater or a club and heard a gentleman by the name of Dave Landau, you're missing out on life, and that's who you need to go see because he's out on the road too, and he's with me today. What's up, Dave?
How are you, sir?
Dude, I don't know. You're married.
Yes.
And you have a kid.
Yeah.
And you live in Michigan.
Yep.
And you travel down here every week to do your show.
Correct.
Normal World over at the Blaze.
Yes.
Have you ever been divorced?
No, I haven't.
So this is the
surprisingly
first marriage for you.
Spiritually and emotionally, yes. But no, not legally.
I take this end around to say when you ask how am I doing, it's like I feel like I'm getting divorced from certain things in life. I don't know how to explain it right now. It's like I'm in this emotional turmoil.
Oh, I get that.
It's just like, I don't know which way to go. I don't know which end is up. And so you're just like, my heart can't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's like faking being an adult all the time. I don't comprehend a lot of things.
I know.
I pretend I do.
Yeah.
And like raising my son, I have to pretend I have the answers to stuff. But in reality, I'm like, there's probably no hope. But good luck, son. He's 9. I can't tell him the truth.
I want to say this, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I mean this. I've said it to others behind your back.
Thank you.
You're a big deal in the world of stand-up comedy.
Thank you.
You're a big deal. You're well accomplished. We were just talking before we started taping. You're doing stuff like Rogan's Room down in Austin, the mothership.
Yeah, in August. Yep.
And that's a big deal.
Thank you.
Stuff like that. But you run in some big circles. Have you noticed that in the world of stand-up comedy that you have certain people like right now who have kind of join forces together, and it's almost like, okay, we're the inner circle clique of what we get to. We approve who's funny and who's not funny and who goes. So like you got the Kill Tony podcast.
Yeah, sure.
And they trot people out there to do that, and it's like you got a lot of these young guys out there that really would like to get that stamp of approval.
I think it's brand new guys because it's almost like an open mic.
Right.
It's like the first, it's
yeah,
their
we're going to give you
second.
a minute to come out and do the thing.
Yeah, so they get their 1 minute, and some of them I've obviously parlayed it into hugely successful careers. I mean, some are great comics like David Jolly, and like there's several that have launched it. But yeah, there are some that just kind of want that they want to be irreverent and edgy and kind of have that stamp immediately.
Yeah.
And that's just not something that I think everybody has.
So when I think of that crew, like I'm sure you saw the roast of Tom Brady, which was, I thought, a great return to comedy.
It was a wonderful way to, a lot of people call it the death of woke, and I would have to agree.
Yeah. Because, you had Shane Gillis and you had Bert Kreischer and you had, the list goes on. Andrew Schwartz.
I would say Nikki Glazer.
Glazer killed it.
Yeah, probably the best set.
Hands down the best set to me. Yeah, Nikki destroyed that deal.
It was perfect.
So, and I know you've crisscrossed paths with all these people. You've been doing this thing for a long time, and you've built a great stand-up comedy career. You and I, you've been on the show before, so we've talked about the nuances of comedy and kind of the world we're living in and all that kind of stuff. Like I have friends who that's all they talk about is comedy and comedians, and that's their whole deal. They interpret their world through the lens of comedy and who's doing it well and who's kind of getting the deal, getting the notoriety right now. I've never been that person. Like, I go out and do live shows. I still don't know what the hell it is I'm doing when I'm on stage, but I'm having fun doing it. People show up for it, and it's a good time. Do you feel like do you feel like when you're out there on the road and you're doing comedy, it's like, okay, do I have to measure up to certain people, or is it just I'm just me against me? Like, because you look at those guys and you're like, okay, here's all these guys who are kind of getting to set the standard for what comedy is these days.
Right.
And it's like, F them, I'm going to do my thing. And
the people who I loved when I started had a lot to do with it, which was like Norm Macdonald, but like the outlaw comics were people that I really liked. I don't know if you're familiar, but it wasn't just Bill Hicks and Sam Kinison, but it was also Andy Huggins, who's still out there, who's out of
Andy's
Houston.
doing it.
Dude, he's a beast, and he's been around since the early 80s.
I always joke with some of our mutual friends, and I say, when Andy dies, I'm stealing his jokes.
He's incredible, dude.
He's an incredible joke writer.
That entire group that came up, Ron Schock, who was one of the best storytellers to ever live. He was one of the first people I ever worked with at the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase. I was 20. And he goes, he's like, I hate young comedians. And I was like, thank you. And he goes, but I like you. And I was like, oh, all right.
See, that's the attitude that I'm talking about. That's a hard click to break into.
Yeah, and he liked me. And that meant the world because I was a big fan of that whole group. So I always wanted to feel like there was sort of a rebelliousness to it, or at least that I was doing something that had an element of art or an element of truth to it that had to do with my life. So even when I talk about stuff on stage, it is about my life, or it's something twisted or dark or something that's like a real part of me. Like I feel like I have to live up to that because I'm lucky enough to be doing what I'm doing, that I have to be like honest enough like that on stage. But I don't think that I have to raise a bar or clear anybody else or be as good as anybody else. I think you have to just be honest to you. I think if you're doing it for anybody else or to be like anybody else,
get the approval.
Yeah, I think there's no point. I think if you look for other comics' approval, it's pointless.
Yeah, because there's always going to be people who hate you. There are going to be people who like you.
Of course.
It's all subjective.
And that's part of comedy, unfortunately. Yeah. I've just never been somebody who's been jealous. I prefer to, like, my opener is Matt McClowry, who's an absolute beast of a comedian. I like to, like Shane Gillis, I used to have a podcast with, talk about exploding, but I also knew Shane when he lost SNL and lost everything, and then you see him skyrocket in the other direction. So you see stuff go up and down.
Yeah, because most cases don't happen like Shane did.
No, they usually end up killing themselves. And it's like, I would have.
We found him on the end of a rope.
Dude, I wouldn't have survived that. If I would have gotten SNL and then lost it, I don't think my mind could have handled making it out of the other. Like, he waited. And then through a pandemic to be like, I'll just wait till they stop calling me racist and I'm selling out arenas. That never, when has that ever happened?
It doesn't happen.
No.
Not in the age of cancel culture.
No.
Which I go back to the Brady roast, and people were watching that and they're like, oh, it's a little strong for me. And I was like, oh, no, it had to be. It had to be, because it had to be just like a dagger in the heart to the woke cancel culture.
It couldn't be soft. And people were saying that. They were comparing it to an age where they were like, well, I preferred the Dean Martin roast. And it's like, yeah, but it's not Freddie Prinze and Don Rickles anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that was fun when it was then.
This isn't a Frank Sinatra roast.
No.
Where he's sitting there and the guys are making fun of their buddy.
And I think, I want to say it was Don Rickles to Sammy Davis said, Sinatra's upstairs. He wants you to go upstairs and tap dance while he shaves. So, like, let's see how that would fly today. So if you even look at it, like, you can see, like, there's a reminiscence of that now in what would be canceled.
Yeah.
So I think but you're 100% right, as a lot of people have found it tasteless, but it had to be.
It had to be. There was no way around it. And, man, they did a good job.
Dude, they did a good job. 100% they did.
I mean, the whole thing was just top notch.
And the balls to make it live.
Yeah.
That was the way to go.
Yeah.
Because
you didn't know what was going to happen next.
No. And that's why it was perfect, because the right comics did the right thing by taking advantage of the fact that they couldn't stop them from saying it.
There was no censors.
None. That's what was great.
You guys know that I love Patriot Mobile. They are good friends and great patriots. And, they realize that Americans are tired. They're tired and frustrated by the stalling economy, the inflation, the endless wars, the relentless assault on our values. And thankfully, folks over at Patriot Mobile, they got your back. They still believe in America. They believe in our Constitution. And I'm so proud over the years to have partnered with them and continue to do it because Patriot Mobile, they're on the front lines, man. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're fighting for the First and Second Amendments, the sanctity of life, our military and first responder heroes. I want you to take a stand with them on conservative causes and put America first by switching over to Patriot Mobile today. You're going to get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile, they operate on all three major networks, plus they back their service with a full coverage guarantee. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team will take care of you. They will find the best plan for your needs. You can keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade, and they'll help. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad or call them 972-PATRIOT. You do it right now, you get a free month when you use the offer code CHAD. I spell it Chad. Use that offer code and don't get fooled by the other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. They don't, and they can't. So join me. Switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider. That's Patriot Mobile. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad. Call them 972-PATRIOT. Get your free month of service today. Use that promo code Chad. Hang tight. We'll be right back. I sit around and I wrestle with so many different things because, I have imposter syndrome. I know I'm not funny or talented. I know I'm not.
That's not true.
It's true, Dave. It's true.
It's not true, though.
I'm not fishing for anything. I swear. I came to this realization
the whole
psychologically.
You fishing for compliments, right?
Tell me I'm funny, Dave, before I go find that rope.
Please like me with Chad Prather.
Yeah,
You're
That's
funny though.
But I always joke about having imposter syndrome, and it's like, I see these guys who are out there busting their ass and doing their thing, and they're just naturally this stuff that goes, for instance,
we all have that.
You're good at crowd work is phenomenal, but you're good at capturing your sets, which I always struggle with. Okay, if I'm going to capture my own stuff, I've gotten those little DJI microphones now, and I've started wearing the thing to kind of record the stuff and try to set a camera up and stuff like that. It's a pain in the ass to capture that stuff. You're good at that and getting the clips out of it.
I'm lucky my friends are good at it. Yeah. Because they were so tired of watching me be lazy about it and never doing it that they're like, I'm just going to set up a camera in the back of the room for you. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah. See, I don't have those friends. I always have comics who are busy opening for me. And
doing it for themselves?
Yeah, doing it for myself. For themselves. And then when they're done, they run out to their merch table.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Jesse Payton.
Yeah.
I
know Jesse.
Become carnival barkers.
Yeah, tell Jesse that next time to be like, look, you can record and open for me. Just keep the camera running.
Yeah, hey, bro, you ran off. Our buddy Steve Trevino calls Jesse the used car salesman of comedy.
I would agree.
It is a fact. He's a carnival barker. He's like, I'll come open for you, dude. I'll come open for you. Just let me sell merch. And I'm like, whatever. And the guy makes like $5,000 off of selling T-shirts in the lobby because he's just literally pulling little old ladies out of the line and making them come over there and buy his crap.
Oh, I've worked with guys who'll stop and be like, I ran out of merch. I got to go to the dollar store and get drug testing kits, and we'll sell them. Just off a pitch.
I went for a little while of carrying a suitcase of basically just yard sale crap.
Yeah.
And I would put that out on the merch table, and I would hold a couple of things. I'd make jokes out of stuff on the stage. Like, here's some stuff that I'm selling. And I would have price tags on them. And it would just force people over to the merch table to see what kind of bullshit I was putting out on the table. like here's a little Frankenstein hand that walks, that you buy at Halloween, the battery operated thing. And I'd be like, well, this is a new sex toy. The thing, you turn it upside down, the hand does like this, and then otherwise it just kind of crawls across the deal. But no,
it's all on impulse.
I know, but I've seen Jesse do that, and he's like, I'll just come work. I'll just come open, dude. I'll drive across the country, and I'll just open if you'll just let me sell merch. And then after he does the show, he's like, hey, am I getting paid for that deal? I was like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, you're like, you dude. Yeah. He's like, there's like 6 flea markets on the way there, and I think I can make some cash. I always have it too, where like my opener has better shirts or whatever.
I hate that.
Oh, dude, it's every time. So
every time.
A lot of times I just don't bring merch because I'm like, we can do the picture, and then you can buy the thing you want.
Yeah,
because I don't have it.
I've got a girl that travels with me, Cindy. She sells merch on the road for me. She handles all of my business online stuff, but she'll go on the road and she'll sell merch. And she's like, I don't think it makes sense for me to go sell merch at this one. And I was like, if Jesse's going to be there opening and he's selling merch, by God, we're going to have a table. If I got to go in the hole, you're going to be there, lady, and you're going to be selling this stuff. In today's economic climate, many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses, and high credit card interest rates can trap you in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month after month. Paying only the minimum each month means it could take you years to become debt-free, if ever. And what I want you to do is reach out to American Financing. They're a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. So if you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers are saving about $854 a month, which is the equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. You could all use that along with me. Now, the process is straightforward and it's quick. You could close your loan in as little as 10 days, and by acting today, you might not have to pay your next mortgage payment. So it costs nothing to see how much you can save. This opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore, so call them. 888-675-4090. That's 888-675-4090, or visit AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Do you still enjoy doing it, though?
Yeah.
Because it's busy. I mean, you get on a plane, you fly down to Dallas.
Yeah.
Every week, you record your show at the Blaze a couple days out of the week, and then you go home.
Yes, every week.
And then you got to go somewhere on the road.
Yep.
On a weekend.
As long as I make sure, like every week I have to make sure I spend time with my son. That's the most important thing in the entire world. And other than that, I have to go do comedy, and then I do my show. But other than that, I still love it. I mean, not every time. It's like you're saying with imposter syndrome, we all have it. We all have those sets where we're like, what am I doing? This is pointless, you know, and you feel like you did something new or you tried something or like a crowd just didn't get it. I think we all have those moments. I mean, I know I do. Like, there's a lot of times where, especially in the first 10 years, I definitely wanted to just kill myself many times, like for real.
How long do you think it takes for a comic to truly find their voice?
7 years and then wait another 5.
Yeah.
Because I think you grow after that, but then that might not be your voice. Because I think it's like you find your voice and then you have to keep growing with that voice. So I don't know if you ever find it. I think that's the thing about comedy is who's the best to ever do it. It's arguable. You'll
definitely
never,
a subjective conversation,
right?
Who is,
so it's like
best.
You can never say who had the best voice or who was the greatest at it. That's why I kind of like it.
Yeah,
nobody's the best at it.
I've been attempting to do it for 10 years now. I'm just now getting comfortable with even old material. Now, now I'm the kind of person I get tired of old stuff. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's got to change, even if it's the same concept or the same premise.
Right,
it's still got to change because I can't keep doing it. But I've had people say, it's going to take 20 years to find your voice. And I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true. Like, I've been involved in it since 2001, where I started doing Second City. And then 2004, I started doing stand-up.
Did Second City, like, that's an improv deal.
Yeah.
So did that lend itself to how good you are these days at crowd work?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's a gift.
Yeah, you think off the top of your head. We got to write sketches. We got to perform live. I mean, I loved it. And I got to do it in Detroit. And what we used to do is we had like a group, and some of them have gone on to much bigger things. Like Sam Richardson is a really big name, and he has a show. He's on the Tim Robinson Show on Netflix. And we used to have there was a bar called the Village Idiot in Detroit, and they had a stage. So with the owners, we agreed to do $5 all you can drink Coors Light, which is not legal to do at a bar, but it's Detroit. It didn't matter. And $5 tickets to the Improv show. So they would all stand in this bar, and we would put on an improv show. And it was mostly kids that were between like 18 and 21, maybe some 15-year-olds, maybe some 20. But we would do it every single week, and that was fun to do because it kind of taught us, because any crowd could come in because it was the hood.
Yeah.
And it kind of taught me to like think on my feet, work with all kinds of different audiences, and then also, you know, how to make money in comedy in kind of a weird, shady way. So that helps later on when you're negotiating door deals.
Sure.
But it was a blast. It really was. And like, it was really cool to do. And it was really cool to just learn to bounce off of somebody. It helps with radio. It helps with TV. It helps with acting. It helped with everything. So when I started doing stand-up and I wanted to tell stories on stage, it helped with character work or being able to be in the moment and all that sort of thing.
Whenever anybody that follows Dave, and you should be following Dave on Instagram, because if you like comedy, his clips are fantastic and they're done well. But whenever you advertise a show, you've always got your photoshopped. Are you doing that with AI? Do you put your face on?
No,
all the different stuff.
Sometimes
or somebody's photoshopping your face.
It's
on
a
that?
Photoshop.
Are you doing it?
I'm not. I've done some of them.
Quality work.
But I try to make sure it's something good. Like today, I was Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi walking down a street in 1975. Like I really try to take like really, really unique photos
So you take either an iconic photo or something funny, and you put your face over you superimpose your face over the deal. Yeah. And those are your advertisements.
Yeah, and it's always, I try to make it heroes or try to make it something to the area. Like the other day was Paper Moon. For Omaha. So and it's
that used to be Dave's idea. I'm going to start doing it.
Go ahead.
No,
I think comics should.
I can't. I wish I could. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not good at that.
Where did you start?
Our buddy. Hang on before I get into that. Our buddy Derek Richards texted me last night.
Yes.
Derek does a lot of shows with you.
Tons.
And he does.
And he texts at night because he's an alcoholic.
He likes to drink.
Yeah.
And you're not.
No, we're recovering.
And well, that's true. I always mess up that terminology. I still drink every day.
It's important.
I can control it.
That's just shaking.
I mean, no, I'm good. I mean, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and I'm starting to kind of feel an itch. But Derek was like, "Hey, are you in town?" I was like, "I am in town." And he goes, "Where are you at tomorrow night?" And I was like, I gotta travel. I gotta go somewhere. And he goes, "Oh, I want to get a cocktail." I was like, and so I always say, like, when Derek starts texting me, there's certain people who can bring the funny out of you. I think Derek has that. Like, Derek says things to me that make me say funny things.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And another thing about being around a guy like Derek is, for a comic, he laughs very easy.
Yes.
Like, you could say something and he laughs pretty fast at stuff. Like, he's of good humor. But if anyone ever discovered our text message conversations, curtains, it'd be over.
Oh, yeah.
Be over, because we say some pretty strong stuff.
I've texted Derek and like, the NSA's real. I was watching Enemy of the State on a plane yesterday, which is a movie from 1998, which oddly predicts everything, even though it's a Will Smith Gene Hackman movie. Yeah. But yeah, and I'm watching it going like, oh, wow, this is spot on to everything that happened. But yeah, I just think like if anybody is just reading any of this, it can't be everyone talks like this. Because if they do, we're all way worse people.
Yeah.
Than we're letting out in public.
The same is true between me and Sarah Gonzalez. If anybody ever read that, it's over.
Yeah.
It's like, these are jokes, NSA. Listen, I know you're listening, and I know they're listening.
Oh, they are.
I mean, I went through a little, my girlfriend and I said, you know what, let's take a little break. Let's take a little time apart from each other. Let's sort some things out. And the next thing I know, my Instagram reels are full of these little, if you're a man and you've ever been hurt by a woman and you got a break. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Anytime you say anything, you're like, oh, it's a nice Mustang. And then you have 40 ads for it. And you're like, this is weird.
It's crazy.
It's everything's following you.
I don't know. It's insane.
It's why so much there's stuff that pops up on my feed. I mean,
you tend to see the things you're thinking about, and
it's
God,
weird.
I miss Pride Month.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I bought some clearance shirts. It was a sale.
I never wanted to tuck it. I just wanted to see what it felt like.
I like to swim and know that I'm safe. I don't want anything to flop out.
I tucked my Guido in my Speedo. Did you've been doing this? What did you say? 2001, 3?
1, and then started stand up in 4.
Okay,
long time.
20 years. It's a long freaking time.
Yeah, dude. It's a
lot of miles.
Oh yeah, I'll die early.
It's a lot. No.
Oh no, it's fine. I've learned to live with it.
I've gone ahead and accepted my fate. People like us, we've lived a lot in these years.
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot, we've done a lot.
It's fine. I get a lot of MRIs. It's okay.
I'm keeping up with the aneurysm. But it's a lot of miles, and that's a hard deal. But no, your bit that you do about being in the institution.
Oh, thank you.
And a guy that thought he was a werewolf?
Werewolf, yeah.
How much truth is in that story?
Most of it.
Really?
Like everything can be slightly embellished, obviously, for the sake of a story, but most of my stories are like 95% true.
So you had gotten in trouble with the law, right?
Yeah, I was arrested 13 times.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And then I was arrested once as an adult, at least over the age of 21. I was 27. And that's when I'm like, I should probably get help. Because I've been to rehab, I've been to juvie, I've been to all these different, I had some issues. Yeah. But now I was facing actual jail time, like prison. Because the judge had to dig up my old, juvenile record because of some 11-year-old that got hit by a drunk driver, and somehow that's my fault. So they're like, he's like screaming the guy starts yelling all of my like priors in court at me.
Wow.
And I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it. Like, and so like, but it's not supposed to be on my record.
Yeah, right.
So, and I'm joking about the kid. Don't be mad, audience.
They'll be all right.
Yeah, what really happened was it was 2 stories combined. That ended up being 3 stories combined. But the first part of the story, I did bong a fifth, which was not uncommon. The first time I started chugging was when my hands would shake.
Yeah.
And I was at Eastland Mall on 8 Mile. I was 16, and I went to eat some rice. We were eating at this Asian place in the mall, and my hand just kept shaking, and the food was going everywhere. My friend's like, do you have Parkinson's? And I'm like, I don't know what I have. But I got in my car, drove down the street, walked in, bought a pint of Bacardi Limon.
Good God.
I know, right?
That gives me heartburn to just say that name.
And then I drove down 8 Mile chugging it, walked back into the mall, and my hand was steady. And I was like, okay, this is a sign.
Wow.
But I didn't stop. I just realized I needed to drink in the afternoon.
That's what you needed to do to stop shaking.
Right, correct. So I realized that was what I needed. But yes, I did. I bonged a fifth at a party. My friend Anthony, he's passed, unfortunately. My friend Nick convinced me to do it. I was already drunk and high, so why not? And I did fall through a table after telling my girlfriend she had orangutan titties. And that's... But what really happened in this story was my dad had gotten Agent Orange from Vietnam, and he had a soft cell sarcoma brain tumor. And that... was lovingly not covered at all by the VA. They were like, what's Agent Orange? And then they never gave my family anything. They've since admitted it.
Really?
Yeah. They've still given us nothing. But the folded flag's really cool.
Yeah.
Sure, it bankrupted, my family, led to my mom's suicide.
Yeah.
But no, it's cool. My parents are dead. But it's a flag. And it's folded. It's in glass.
Yeah.
It's real cool.
It looks good on the mantle.
It's not bad. When people go, what's that? I'm like, that's my father. He's surfer.
I'd love to introduce you to him, but I can't.
I can't. He suffered for 6 years before a very horrible death. Anyway, so it's a lot of the reasons I was drinking and using at the time. But he had like a halo drilled into his head. But he was like Dangerfield. He just made jokes about it.
Yeah.
Like he would golf with a halo drilled into his head.
So he lived with that.
He just dealt with it.
Wow.
He was very tough. He never complained. I've never seen anybody like it. I complained if I stubbed my toe.
Yeah.
He had crap drilled into his head and would just make jokes about it. So one night I came home drunk, and they would come and go because my dad was paying out of pocket to get his surgery done. So he would go to like Boston mainly, these other places, and I didn't know that they were even home. I came home, I was all wasted. My grandma wasn't there. She'd stay with us. I'd always steal her Vicodin and her morphine patches, which are really fun. I came home and he was there, and I decided to fight him. Well, because we had some words. Well, it turns out a Vietnam vet who's a trained killer with Halo is still tougher than a 17-year-old drunk.
He's got a bird cage on his head. He's over there whipping your ass.
Oh, yeah. He spun me around pretty quickly, almost broke my arm, and then my head went into a microwave, which then split. And then he just held me there. And I was like, okay.
Wow.
And my mom called the police. So the cops come, and they handcuff me to an ambulance. So I'm now riding in an ambulance handcuffed, and they want me to go to a rehab. But they found out the rehab didn't have any place to put me, so I had to go to a mental institution to be held over before I went into the rehab. So when I got to the mental institution, that's when I walked in. And, they take your belt and your shoelaces and all that, and then they give you scrubs, and you can earn your clothes back depending on behavior.
Yeah.
But that's when I went back, and I meet this kid who's sitting on a bed, and the counselor introduces me, and, he's like, Dave, this is Reese, Dave. And he's like, what are you here for? Like, what's your thing? And I'm like, I'm very drunk. I'm like, what about you? He's like, I'm a werewolf. I was like, you don't look like a werewolf. He goes, yeah, I'm not one right now. There's not a full moon. Like, I'm the asshole. And he's like, if there's a full moon, I transform into a werewolf and I attack people. All right. Last month, I almost killed my dad. I'm like, Neat. Yeah. So could I get my own room? And they're like, no, everybody gets their own, everybody gets a roommate. You're going to have to room with him. And I'm like, yeah, but he thinks he's a werewolf. He's like, he's not a werewolf. And I'm like, I know he's not a werewolf. He doesn't know.
He's not convinced.
Yeah, he's the problem. And then the guy ended up attacking me in the middle of the night. He starts howling, dude. And the dude's way bigger than me. I'm only 5'6" anyway. This dude's way bigger. And at night he starts howling and barking. And wolves don't even bark. He did. So this dude's, and I'm just yelling for help. And he rips his clothes off and he lunged at me butt naked. No joke. I go to grab a lamp to hit him with it, and it was glued down. And this dude's on top of me, and they hit him with a trank, which they called booty juice. And they hit him in the ass, drag him off me, and then and eventually I ended up going into a rehabilitation center after that. And I was there for, I want to say, 3 weeks in the rehabilitation center.
You went to rehab with scars.
Dude, it's
emotional.
Dude, it sucked. Like, and then I got out, and my friends were like, dude, you can't drink. I'm like, oh, I know. They're like, here's some weed, but you can't drink. So, like, immediately when I got out.
Yeah.
Because I was too young, and I wasn't ready.
I've got a comic friend right now who's trying to sober up. And it's like, you're like, dude, you're not good at this. The drinking thing, I know you have found your identity in it for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But you become a different person, and it's not good. I never had that problem, but I've known a lot of people who did.
Tons of people can handle their drinking.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Like, I've never been one of those people that are like, listen, you all have a problem. It's like, no, I do.
Yeah.
I think, and I like drinking. I like hanging around with people who are drinking. One of my best friends owns a bar in Detroit. I still go there. But I don't care. It's fine. But it's not something that it's great for anxiety. But I think that's the big problem with the pandemic and what we're seeing now 4 years later is people are still treating that and the things that happened to them and what they lost with alcohol. That's why we're seeing such a rise in cirrhosis deaths. We're seeing I think it's become a bit of a Band-Aid now in our culture more than it ever has.
People decided they liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Depended on it.
I mean, I used it as medication.
Yeah.
It's the same as now where people are like, you should try ketamine. It helps with depression. And I'm like, oh, does it?
I've had a lot of people, because I deal with depression. There's no secret publicly. I've talked a lot about depression. I deal with it. It's a battle. And I've had people who said the same thing about the ketamine thing. I was like, I don't know enough about it, but no.
Yeah, that's the thing is I know a lot about it. I tried it. It helps, but I tried it in, the late 90s going to raves.
Yeah.
Sure, it helps.
Yeah.
But I say go for it if it helps, but I'm like you. I have severe depression. I'm bipolar. I have severe depression. Those are the things that I'm diagnosed with.
Right.
I don't even know if they're right because sometimes it changes depending on the new therapist. I just know that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But then when I tell my life story and I get into everything, they're like, well, no, it all makes sense why you're broken. And I'm like, cool. So it's not like you can change that.
No, and I've been to the people. I've had somebody that tried to diagnose me. Like at this stage of the game, I've been to so many different ones. Doctors and folks over the years where I've just said, listen, I don't care what you label me as. Just if you can help me, that would be cool.
Right.
like I don't. You could call me a schizophrenic. You could call me demon possessed. I'll whatever. Is there a pill?
Yeah, it's like that's what I'd like too. Is like, is there a pill that doesn't make me rent a hotel at the Mandalay Bay?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, is there something? And not even to make that a joke, but it's like there seems to be such a problem with SSRIs where it's like, well, it helps some groups, or you kill yourself in others.
Yeah,
it's like, so what really works for people? We have such this wide berth of what's actually effective.
The brain is a freaking crazy thing.
It's an organ that has to be fed that we know very little about.
Yeah. It's so when you have those chemical things, whatever, the drops that happen, and it's like people say, well, you got to shake it off. Like your life is good. Circumstantially, it's beautiful. It's like, yeah, that's not it. Yeah. That ain't the deal. And had someone close to me say, you need to get back on something. And it's so... My doctor was like, well, I could prescribe you Lexapro. And I was like, I really don't want to take anything again.
Right.
Because I've yet to find anything that works for me.
Exactly.
I'm open to whatever you're using.
Right. Like, what do you, what
I
do
want to
you,
meet somebody on the corner and be like, what you got?
but anybody who's ever been depressed doesn't go to a depressed person and go, but you have to understand life is beautiful. And you're like, what are you talking about? You're like, no, but
Is it?
you're like, I just went gun shopping.
Yeah, I only needed one bullet.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm out in the garage tying a rope, and you're like,
Yeah.
you know, aren't you happy with the sunny day? You're like, I'm sorry, do you not understand that
Right.
this is a darkness?
Right. And,
It does-
and every time I make jokes about stuff like this, people inevitably the comments come in. You can't joke about it. Oh, I can.
Hell
I can
yes.
joke about it. I have to joke about it.
100% you
Yeah.
can joke about it. It's what half the jokes
Yeah.
I was talking about on my friend's podcast too recently, and it actually got a lot of likes. It was about giving my guns to people when I'm depressed. Because my best friend, I'm like, can you just hold on to these for a while?
Yeah.
We were just joking about like, hey, I have a high apartment. Do you want to switch places for a bit? You know, just because it's like,
Sometimes, yesterday I checked in over here at the Sheraton, and it's 16 floors. And when I checked in, she goes, do you want high or low? I said, you know, I found the low floors tend to work best for me because I don't know what I'm going to wake up with tomorrow. So let's just keep it. And I was laughing talking to JD and them. The chair that's under the desk was literally like a 70-pound chair.
Yeah.
Didn't have wheels on it, and it was round. It's like trying to move R2D2. It's like I couldn't pull this thing out. I wanted to use the chair, and I was like, why is this damn chair so awkward? I realized it's so somebody can't throw it through the window
Right.
from the 14th floor. And it takes a sociopath like me to think of something like that. You know?
oh wait, it's
So
the truth though.
it's true.
Well, it's like when I stay in Vegas, whenever I do Brad's, I'll go into the MGM Signature.
Yeah.
And the last time I was
And those
there,
are the towers behind the MGM Grand. yeah.
right? And they have balconies on like the 30th floor, and I was standing outside, and I'm like, "This is ballsy." Yeah. like just not just for me, but how many gamblers?
No kidding.
like that is the most insane thing to be like. Yeah, we should definitely have good rooftop views in Vegas. What could go wrong?
Yeah, I've often thought that same thing. I was like, some of these people are already unhinged, and now they just lost the family fortune.
Right.
And you gave them a balcony with a view.
Yeah.
And they're just looking down.
Yeah, some of these guys just off themselves at the craps table.
What are these people on? Have you seen some of these videos recently where people are just stripping down naked? I mean, I don't know. And they're just running out on the casino floor and just jumping up on the...
I know PCP came back for a little bit.
Did it?
It did for a bit in Detroit. My friend, who's a cop, a lot of times they get very naked and they get very fighty. And the problem is they have Hulk strength. So they will get like, these people are like pick up your car strong. It's a very dangerous drug. And they're undressed.
So I just want to say to the audience that if you're feeling down and like your time has come and gone, you too can come back like PCP.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can make a comeback.
Yeah, it's an upper.
I see these videos of these people just stripping down butt naked and just jumping on the craps table in the middle of these things. I'm like, what? I don't know if they got drugged, roofied, or like Roseanne took an Ambien and didn't go to bed with it, or what the hell's going on.
It's
But
too much energy. It's
you can't contain it.
No, I'm already like have a human benzo quality to me, so I don't like downers don't really work for me much.
Yeah.
That's why alcohol was always something that oddly worked. Like I enjoyed it.
Mellowed you out.
Yeah, but I usually had to do cocaine to stay up and keep partying.
Yeah, that's like, and he said it on the show, so I don't mind saying it again. Aubrey Huff, that played, he won 2 World Series with the San Francisco Giants. He said, I would take 5 Adderall to stay up all night long, and then I would drink, all morning long just to level myself out, and then take the Adderall to play baseball, and then the alcohol. And he said I was on a cycle.
Yeah,
with doing that stuff, and I don't know. The brain is a weird thing, though. I wrestle with it. I'll go through my phases where I'm like, I'm doing great. I can see the blue skies and stuff, and then I don't know. It's weird.
No, it's not. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
And I think you being honest about it helps.
I
more
think
people
men
than you
should
think.
admit it. I think they should talk about it, and a
Yeah.
lot don't.
Yeah, I think because you have to admit it to a degree. I mean, I think if we cry, it's bad. But as long as we do it in private and only once.
You don't want to see pictures of me ugly crying.
Yeah.
Jesus. What was it? I'll never forget the Friends episode where I guess it was Phoebe was dating the therapist, and it's Chandler, who's cutting all the jokes. He says, "Yeah, wouldn't want to be there when the laughter stops." Yeah. I find that a lot of comics are depressed. A lot of comics are depressed, introverted. They live in a kind of a black space. Mm-hmm. There's a few who aren't, but I don't know. Maybe psychologically the laughter is a.
It is,
or to get other people to laugh at you.
Yeah, people always think that's like a cliche, but I don't think it is. When I look at somebody like Freddie Prinze, like I think I mentioned him earlier, I always thought like, wow, to kill yourself at 21, then it's like, oh, he just liked cocaine and playing Russian roulette. Well, that is different.
That's a whole different deal.
Yeah, we kind of built that up. But you do look at somebody like Robin Williams, who was sick and deteriorating, but you look at when he was, somebody interviewed Bobcat Goldthwait, and they were like, did he ever talk about suicide with you? And he goes, well, sometimes we didn't. So it's not an uncommon thing. I think we have that. It's not even a morbid curiosity. Yeah. It's just we have a certain darkness that we have to find light in. Yeah. That's how my brain's always worked. Like from the time I was young, I was fascinated by the darkest humor I could possibly find, or the humor that was just like over the top, a bit edgy, whether it was like In Living Color, Wayne's Brothers, something that was just a little more irreverent, or like Blanche Knott's Truly Tasteless Joke Books, or whatever it was, just stuff that like you weren't supposed to see. Yeah. And the older I get, now I just want to find the parts of me that I guess I'm not supposed to see, or the parts of humanity I'm not supposed to see, and try to find the light in it. Like that's the only way I can get better. That's why I tell those stories on stage. And I love those stories because those are the ones that it's like, are those real? Yeah, that's the best part, is the ones that seem the craziest are the ones that have the most truth to them.
Do you think that do you find the humor in taking, like I've heard people say, let's take, I've heard people that are songwriters too, as well as joke writers, say, let's take two things that really don't match each other and let's see how we can fit them into each other's world, And I know that there's the conflict of the yin and the yang or whatever inside of our own psyche that kind of meshes some weird concepts together. And those do make for some of the funniest scenarios.
Oh, yeah, it's fish out of water.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I should be in a juvenile detention home or a rehab, but I'm in a mental ward in a room with a werewolf.
Right.
That didn't see that coming. That's not where I thought this story was headed. I mean, a werewolf. But no, I think those are the funny things. Do you find yourself kind of exploring, like you mentioned that, do you actively explore into the dark places in your own soul, or is it like, it's just there?
I guess I do, but it is just there. But sometimes, like if I'm in therapy and I'll talk about something, I'll be like, oh crap, I forgot that happened. Yeah. And then I'll realize there's a bit there, and I'll be able to write something out of it. And it's fun to kind of find that and remember that, because I forgot that was like a moment in my life that had some change that I completely forgot or blacked out.
Yeah, blacked out.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
I think there's something to talking it out, though. And like, there's some things you don't want to revisit because it's like, I would rather just not remember that. But they'll come back. And sometimes in those conversations, I remember stuff. And I was like, damn, that was dark, but it was also very funny.
Yeah.
Because I'm a dark humor guy. I'm not fortunate enough to be able to do much of it on stage because I've built this platform where people they don't really know how to handle me or approach me. I have some friends who literally that's all they do is dark comedy.
Yeah.
And it's dark, and I love it.
Yeah, it's the best.
I've got a bit that I do a thing about conspiracy theories where I say if you want to find out who went to Epstein Island, you need to find the chef because the chef knows everything.
Oh yeah,
you got the guy that was only allowed to make chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese on Epstein's Island. You're a sommelier he's got to figure out what flavor Capri Sun matches with Velveeta. And people are like, oh, and so I had to dumb that down, or I had to soften it where I was like, hey, the light bulb went on for you too. It went on for him. Let's find this guy. He's got answers. Yeah. But people didn't want to hear that. Like, oh my God, you're making a joke about pedophilia. I was like, well, no, actually, it's somebody knows. The point is somebody knows and they're not talking.
Yeah, it's odd because if I do it about the Catholic Church, because I was raised Catholic, people will call it like, okay, it's been done. Or, that's been done since the 80s. Okay, we get it. And it's like, but I'm angry. You understand? Like, I'm angry that I believe, like, I do believe in God. I do believe in Jesus. I'm upset that the church abused power. That bothers me. So I'm making these jokes to call it out. Like, it's an unforgivable thing that they did. Right. I'm not saying the church shouldn't exist, but I'm saying this is something that happened.
They created an environment in which that could exist and succeed.
Absolutely.
And prevail.
And it did. And that's the point, is like, I'm not going to just forgive that easily when it happened to so many people. Now, that has nothing to do with my relationship with God or Jesus. That has to do with my relationship specifically with priests that had no business being there.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me, is when people think you're going against the wrong thing. And that, like, I do a bit about Epstein Island where I go and we look at the people that were found guilty,
right?
Or that the names they released. I'm like, it can't be real. I'm like, first, it's David Copperfield. Sure, kids love magic, but secondly, I go, they had Stephen Hawking. I'm like, you're joking, right? Like, it's not. I go, the guy had a body that looked like a spider that got hit by a newspaper. I'm like, he had one of those faces that it looked like a Shih Tzu was run over by a car. And the people didn't have the decency to put it down. So every time he rolls in the room, you're like, what the hell is that? And like, people will start groaning, and I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to defend a pedophile? My bad. Then I just keep going into it. I'm like, I hope God put Stephen Hawking in heaven, but left him in the chair. And every few minutes, Christopher Reeves walks by him. And it's like, can I get you something from the buffet? Oh, right, you can't chew. You know, and it's like, I like to just always keep hammering it, because it's like, I'm going after the victimizer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not the victim.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people forget. Like, it's like, I'm not making fun of a victim. I'm not making fun. But like, this thing exists in our world, and it's demonic and evil. Yeah. So why would I not make a joke about it?
It's a joke, but it makes a point. I mean, it's a cultural revelation that, hey, listen, we're making a point here. There's something you can hang truth on.
It's like murder. It's anything like, if you watch a murder show or read a murder novel, like every woman does every time they turn on TV or open a book. It's like, are you all of a sudden, is that okay? You're saying you're all right with murder? Like, you're not.
Right.
You're pointing out something in society or a dark part of the human psyche that you're exposing.
And anybody, I have people, I don't know if you ever get this, where people say, that's beneath you. Like, online, that's beneath you. I was like, you have no idea how low. Like, if you could get into a broken brain like I have or you have, trust me, we're really holding back on some things that we could go. And it's like, if you really understood where my brain went on certain things, be glad.
You're like, I took the highest, most moral road I could when I wrote certain jokes.
It's brutal. It really is. It's like, if you knew the catharsis going on, the angels and demons on the shoulder. I used to do a sketch bit. I want to bring it back. It was the Reverend Harold Swindle. It was a TV evangelist, where I put the wig on and the suit and the whole thing, and I was like a TV preacher, and it was people they'd get pissed. They're like, "You're mocking." I said, "No, I'm mocking the charlatans. Like, I don't see how you can't see the difference here.
Right?
It's not. I'm not mocking your church or your preacher or whoever. I mean, but I think some of these people just need to be mocked. They need to be ridiculed."
Did you ever see the HBO documentary they were filming on Ted Haggard? When the story broke?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Talk about, like, striking oil, because they're doing a documentary on him. Then it comes out that he is having gay sex with prostitutes and doing meth off of them.
Yeah.
While they're filming it, the dude's riding around his mega church like, hi. You're like, so none of you thought this was...
Nobody had a... So I've got some friends in the ministry who they had brought him in to do like a weekend retreat with a bunch of preachers or whatever, and he told them, he publicly told them, he said, all of my staff, he said, I require that they have a travel bag that is like a Ziploc with some provocative pictures of their spouse and lube and things like that, so that while they're on the road they can masturbate to pictures of their spouse. And I was like, and none of y'all ever sat back and thought, this is kind of weird? Like this is. I mean, he's literally in front of a bunch of preachers saying, you know what, you need to pack your own porn.
You're like masturbate to your spouse.
I was like, I don't think that's how this works.
It's never happened ever. Now let's get into the plastic bag.
What's really in that Ziploc, Teddy? But I was like, and then it all came out. The dude's getting, whatever the gay massages and the whole thing.
Right. That's insane.
And I was like, none of y'all ever looked and said, this is,
Yeah, like never once.
Yeah, let's pay this guy another $50,000 to come speak at our church.
Yeah, you're 25 years in advance of what it took to get into football arenas filled with the porn of their staff's choice. And it's like, really?
And right now, you've been talking about this. I got people who'll be like, oh, you can't talk about that. Oh, no, I can. He talked about it. I can talk about it.
Well, and then it's like...
And then he did it.
Yeah, and that's like you have Joel Osteen, who when they ripped open his church, they found money in his walls.
Money in the walls.
Yeah, millions of dollars. And he's like, I don't know. It's like, you don't know.
Right.
You don't know. You don't know that when there was a flood, you kept everything closed until you were called out. You don't know.
Yeah.
And that's my problem is it's like, I think that it's great that you want to share the word of God. But when it comes out that you're doing scummy things and hiding tons of money and you're doing everything against what Jesus was preaching about, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And I understand that you may have followers. That doesn't make you right. There's been a lot of people throughout history that had plenty of followers.
Big followers. We could name names.
We can think of a few.
I mean, world changers.
Yeah, big.
Yeah. They had some diehards, literally.
But it's like there's nothing. I think it's great that people have that. Yeah, like you said, it's great to be preaching, do the things you want to do. But like you said, call it out for what it is. Well, there are people that are doing it wrong. And
I think it's the job. Okay, so I tell people, they'll ask me, who are your influencers as and I said, the spontaneity, whether it was real spontaneity or not, I think some of it, a good bit of it was, but Robin Williams, the rant style, jump on the soapbox thing was George Carlin. The political aspect was a Bill Hicks. The storytelling was Bill Cosby. And I can categorize.
I like Bill
different
Cosby's
guys.
work and his comedy.
Maybe he could help my depression.
Just gives you a drink. You're like, wow.
Yeah, Bill was carrying a whole other bag on the road.
Yeah.
And it didn't involve masturbation.
Yeah, nobody could see it, though.
Nobody ever did. Very few eyewitnesses.
Fine magician.
We're going to put the pill in the pudding. But I look at those folks and I say, if you look at these folks, Bill Hicks is a perfect example. Is somebody who said, listen, we're gonna I hate this phrase, we're gonna speak truth to power, but we're gonna use comedy and punch up.
Right.
And I think that there's got to be nothing off limits. There's nothing sacred, no sacred cows. If it's these church ministries or Joe Biden or Donald Trump, I get people who get mad at me for making fun of Donald Trump.
Me too.
You got to be able to make fun of Donald Trump. And I mean, I think Donald Trump makes fun of Donald Trump. He's a walking parody of himself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I'm assuming you at least caught the highlights of I had a show in Columbus the night of the debate. I was at the Funny Bone. So I missed.
Oh, great club.
It's a great club.
Yeah.
I missed the first half of it. Thursday night show. Missed the first half of the debate, then came back, watched it in the hotel lobby. And I was watching this thing. I was like, oh, wow. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't know it was going to be set this man up to get train wrecked.
I knew it would be a setup. I kept calling it on my show, but I didn't know it was going to be that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be an assassination attempt.
And then to add insult to injury, they trot him out in front of George Stephanopoulos for 22 minutes. And Stephanopoulos was like, I think Stephanopoulos thought this was going to be the feather in my cap. This was going to be my coup de grace moment where I'm going to really encapsulate my career as a journalist.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really going to poke this guy. And Joe just kind of stared at him with those big brown marble eyes, and he had nothing. I can't believe this guy's asking me these questions.
Yes.
So these are the days when I wish I could do a Joe Biden impression. I can't because I hate the guy.
Yeah.
I can't stand him. I want him to abuse him more.
Yeah,
He's a trashy human.
I don't mind. Anybody's calling it elder abuse. I'm like, what? Who cares? Look at how he's lived his life.
Yeah.
The guy should be in an old folks' home getting punched by a member of the Crips. There's no reason. There's
He should
no
be in a mental ward with a werewolf.
Yes, exactly. Where it's just, hey, that's pretty much the impression is just, what? All right.
You guys, you had been with, obviously you were doing, you were doing the show with Anthony Camille, right?
Yes.
And that was, remind me on this thing, because I don't think you've ever told me, but I've heard other people tell me that like you had like a man crush on Anthony.
And Artie. Yeah, and I ended up on the show, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, big time.
And then you wound up doing the thing together.
Yes.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And then you went from there to where? Was that to Crowder?
Crowder, yep.
And that was a nightmare.
That didn't work out.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like everything that ever has been a part of that has sort of been a nightmare.
Great agent.
Yeah, well, we shared that agent.
Yeah, good guy.
The same one that
Big heart.
dumped us for Steven Crowder. Have you heard from him?
No.
The agent?
No.
Nor have I.
Well, what he does is when he meets a Republican, he puts on a sparkly American flag hat. And then when he goes to meet a Democrat, he takes that one off and puts on a sparkly BLM hat. He's that guy. And then he says stuff like, I don't chase money, I chase the funny. And then he gives his card to anybody who's standing outside of America's Got Talent.
Oh boy!
God, anyway.
I've always said, he was a bulldog and an asshole.
He
which
was.
was great as long as he was your bulldog and asshole. If you felt like he was on your team, but I could go back into some stories where I'm like, yeah, I just didn't know what I was doing. In a lot of those cases,
It sucked when you find out that you've opened a door for somebody to make millions,
literally millions of dollars.
and then they turn around and ask you for 10,000.
Yeah, he asked me for 6,000.
Yeah.
6,800 to be exact.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Off of a thing that he never negotiated for me. I was like, I just made you $7 million.
Yeah.
And you would like to come commission me off of a contract? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, mine was 68,000. When a gig that he did for me in Napa still to this day owes me 23,000.
Yeah, he's a.
Yeah.
I just wish he wasn't that, because he had the capability to be so great, but
Incredible.
he would step on anybody to get slightly ahead, even if it didn't make him get that far ahead.
And I tried to make him family. I mean,
That's how I treated him.
I was in that deal where I was like, yeah, I'm trying to be family here, and it didn't work out. But anyway,
Well,
agents in the industry, man.
That's what sucks, is like a lot of the stuff between me and Crowder, I think, I'll just say it honestly, was a result of the agent.
His influence.
Because all of a sudden, things were happening where I'm like, this seems bizarre.
Yeah.
And things were getting bad. And I was like, are you repping them? Repping who? What are you talking about? Which is not how you say yes. And then it kept being that game.
Yeah.
And then slowly I found out what was happening. And it's like, so you did this behind my back. And then it's the divide and conquer thing.
Yeah. And to be clear, for those of you who are keeping score and are confused with our cryptic language, because we're trying to not be litigious,
correct,
we had the same agent. We all
did.
had the same agent.
Yes.
And peace to him. May he go with God.
He won't. If it's biblical, there's two solid reasons.
There's a couple of reasons. But anyway, thank you for this episode of the Chad Prather Show. Chad Prather Show brought to you by Inside Jokes. But then you wound up heading over to the Blaze, doing Normal World.
Yes.
And doing some sketch stuff with them, and you've got the show that comes on. How many times are they on? 3 or 4 times a week?
3 times a week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night.
Yeah, Normal World. So people need to be tuned into that, checking it out. And who knows, man? You know, I'm always sitting there going, I just don't think that any of us have truly invented ourselves yet.
I feel the same.
You ever look at that? You're like, there's some stuff that we just haven't tapped into. I think where some things are going.
Yeah, and I think things have been a little messed up in comedy and in everything right now. That also technology and everything that's being invented. I don't think we're all there yet.
Yeah,
it's fun to take the ride though.
It's a ride, and and you get to a point where you go, okay, I'm trying to be more strategic with this. I don't want to take gigs just to be taking them. My agent now, he does a fine job, but he's not a comedy agent. He's a music agent who's jumped over into the comedy world. He's had to learn the hard way, kind of a rough path. Like the old preacher said, none of us knowed anything. We just taught each other, So that's sort of the way he and I have been. And so, there's a lot of venues out there that don't have me anymore just because they don't know. They don't know if I'm still doing it anymore. And the old agent didn't help. So,
No, he doesn't.
but I'm like, I'm trying to, hang in there because I think there is a voice that's still to be found. And the beauty of it is, and I think we've talked about this before, is there's no algorithm, there's no filter, there's no screen between you and that live audience.
Right.
There's a transference of ideas from your brain to their brain, and you can have fun along the way.
That's what I love about the live show is it's real.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. There's no comment section. There's no like button. There's no anything. There's just you and them, honest response right off of what you're saying. And that's what I love about it. There's nothing more authentic than that.
Do you find that people are trying, because of these clips of crowd work by some of these comedians out there doing more and more of that, do you find that people don't know how to be an audience anymore? Do you run into that some?
Depending on the venue, yeah.
Yeah, they just want to talk to you.
They do. Some people don't. And that's what sucks is a lot of clubs have trained people to be like, look, don't scream out. Don't cause issues.
We'll kick you out of here.
And then you have the same issues with comics who haven't been in it that long. They're trying to get a viral clip before they learn how to be a comic. So they're clipping on a lapel mic after doing comedy for 3 weeks and going up at a club and trying to just get, just asking questions until they can get something to put online.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this crowd paid for a show.
Yeah.
If organically you happen to ask somebody something and it works and you end up putting it up, sure. But it's like I also don't have a camera facing the audience. I don't have. I deliberately I don't do that because if I end up getting something, whatever. But it's it just happens.
Yeah.
But I think there's people. I think it goes both ways. I think a lot of people that are getting into comedy don't know how to be comics anymore because they're looking at it the wrong way because they're looking for it to be viral. And then I think you have audience members that are looking to be part of the show, and I think that's also dangerous.
We were. Do you have any value in open mics?
I used to, because you would go up there and you would try out new stuff. And I mean, I used to do them 2-3 times a week when I first started. One night we would do Motor City Improv, which was our group, and it really was cool.
Yeah.
Not as much now. I find a lot of them are just, you're cliquey, you come in, it's not...
Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, and it's just sort of, it depends on which one you're at. I mean, if you're at a club that's more known and you're amongst comics that you know, then sure.
I've done some shows in different cities. Like, for instance, last year we did Kansas City, and afterwards we stuck around. We did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the Thursday night afterwards, instead of having a late show, they had their open mic that night. And I was like, damn, there's some funny guys in here. Mm-hmm. Like, really funny. Like, we laughed about it. I said, I'm going to start going to some of these open mics and sit around with a bunch of $50 bills and say, hey, I like that joke. Here's $50.
Right.
Now get lost, kid. But no, I was like, that open mic is a good environment. Like, they did it right. Then you got some of them, which I'll sit there and observe.
Yeah,
these guys.
It's the ones that are creating a good atmosphere for the actual art of it. Is not to sound douchey or pompous, but there is an art to it, and the ones that cater to that, I think, are the ones that are beneficial. The ones that actually are about going up, trying new stuff, doing comedy. Yeah. The ones that are about the click and the hangout and that sort of thing. If it's just about that, I don't think it does any good for you as a growing comic. I think it just gets you in with this guy, and then whoever is the most popular open micer in that group. I think it doesn't do anything for you. Like, you really have to focus on you.
Yeah.
Growing as a comic and not trying to impress the back of the room.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard. It's hard because, like where I started, you have, I think there's something innate in all of us. We want that acceptance and approval, and we want to do something where the right people go, yeah, that guy's funny.
Oh, yeah. But I think the best way to do it, though, is if you are true to yourself and then it just happens. But you do want it, though.
Yeah.
It's just how you get it. You don't want to, I just don't think you want to get, and there's going to be parts when you emulate and you're trying to figure it out. Like, when I started, you had 1,000 Mitch Hedbergs, then you had Dave Attell's, and then you had all these people doing, it just depends on who is popular. Now I see an open mic, there's, 10 Shane Gillises. It's just whoever is popular, you just see people emulating that for a minute. But yeah, when I started, you'd just see Mitch Hedberg after Mitch Hedberg, and you'd be like, dude, what, like... He's very famous, guys. Yeah. We all know who he is.
We know who you're trying to be like. Right. Are y'all going to overdose too?
Yeah, and he hadn't yet. But yeah, it's
right.
It was
still
very
alive.
Close. But I mean, he was still at the point where he was like laying on stage and mumbling into a mic.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Sad deal.
Yeah, and every person was always, whoever was the popular comic for a minute. The Dane Cook thing was rough. That was like a good solid year of people wanting to be Dane Cook, just jumping around the stage with frosted tips, and you're like, oh my God.
That's wild. I never have thought about that. Like I've never thought about that deal. The imitators.
Yeah, because
they jumped in
and I get doing it to an extent.
Yeah.
Because you're learning to deliver a joke, and you look up to people, and you see who's popular and
it's
whatever.
Trending.
Yeah, so sure, but when it becomes an impression of it, it's difficult to watch.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we're living in a crazy world. Are you even paying attention to what's happening as far as on the political side of things?
Trying.
I mean, you're with a political media network with a show.
Yeah.
And I know you write jokes about that all the time, but I'm done even trying to speculate what's going to happen. There's so many scenarios.
Yeah, we have one guy who is now going to jail for 34 counts of one thing, possibly.
Yeah.
We have another guy who died 3 years ago. I don't know what. I have no idea who they're going to sneak in, and now he keeps saying that, oh, no, he's completely able, and he's able to run.
Got to do it. He's doubling down on that.
Perfect sound mind and body.
Yeah.
But he's not. You know
he's
that.
He's met with a Parkinson's doctor
8
routinely 8 times. And KJP, Corinne Jean-Pierre says it's a routine checkup. It's like, I don't know anyone that has met with a Parkinson's specialist.
Michael J. Fox doesn't meet
not
with a
8 times in the last year. No.
That's insane. And that guy can still play guitar.
He can still jam.
Rock. Like that guy's if he's president, fine.
Right.
We know what he has.
Man, I made a Michael J. Fox. I made a reference to Michael J. Fox on stage last week, and I thought they were going to just carry me out and burn me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. In Columbus, actually. It might have been Cincinnati, but yeah, it was one of those deals. I can't even remember what the reference was.
He has a good sense of humor about that.
He does.
He had there was the Michael J. Fox show. It aired for a very short amount of time, which sucks, but it was one of those kind of interview style shows. Yeah. And it was on ABC, and one of the ads for the show, I'll never forget, it's him serving himself mashed potatoes, and his wife grabs the spoon and goes, "Stop trying to be a hero," and just throws the potatoes on the plate.
Did you see they did a documentary on him recently? I think it came out last year, where they're showing him, helping him walk and the rehab stuff that he has to go through, and he'll just be walking down the sidewalk with his guy, and he just falls out in front of people and just makes a joke about it.
Yeah, Well, he was a comedy actor, really. When you think, I mean, he went from Alex P. Keaton to Back to the Future, and I read his book, Lucky Man. The first one's great.
Yeah,
he talks about how he just his finger just wouldn't stop.
Yeah, in a hotel room, his finger.
Yeah. It's incredible. But in it, he doesn't talk about, he's like, I wasn't the best person. I mean, he doesn't talk about being a wonderful guy.
Yeah, and he never made himself a victim either.
No, he just, he kind of talks about how, he drank a lot, he's kind of a dick. But he was a superstar in the 80s.
Yeah, top of the world.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him. But he didn't pepper it up to be like, oh, this is, I'm the worst, I'm the best person this could ever happen to.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I liked about the book. Is just like, I'm not saying I deserve this, but it's happened to worse people, and that's what's interesting about it. He seems to get it. I don't think he'd be offended by much.
No. And I wish I could think now. I think I recorded that set, so I'm gonna have to go back and listen to see, because I mean, it was a loud groan of something about shaking. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
people get very pissed off.
Yeah,
people like to white knight.
Yeah, of course. I was like, really? How you play it? And they came back around. They were
of course.
They weren't legitimately pissed, but
no, but you do get that minute where you're like,
but it was pretty. It was good enough reaction that I'm thinking about doing it again.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the reaction.
You're about as trustworthy as Michael J. Fox trying to measure sugar in a spoon.
Well, because we want to do the Coldplay video today on the show, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, do we make the guitar sound like it's horrible,
right?
Like horribly bad, or do we make it sound like the greatest rock song ever played in history as the joke? You know what I mean? Because it's either way, it's funny.
Yeah.
And it's like one is extremely punching low and the other one's punching high.
Yeah.
And either way.
You don't get that scenario all the time.
No, and it's fun either way.
Right.
And it's a compliment. It's like, of course he's great at guitar.
Yeah.
He's been playing it for, like that was real back then.
Yeah.
Like it's fun.
Now he just strums naturally.
Yeah. And it's like. I mean, yeah,
my
we said
God.
it. We have to admit we pretended it was better than it was, guys.
Let's see. This episode will probably come out next week. Where are you going to be starting next week? What do you got coming up?
Omaha Funny Bone, Side Splitters,
Which one? The one in Tampa or Wesley Chapel?
Tampa.
Yeah, that's a good club.
I love that club.
Old school, baby.
Yeah, I love that club. And then Charlotte, North Carolina, and Comedy Mothership, DaveLandau.com.
Dude, when did Austin? Like Rogan did a number on Austin, huh? I mean, he kind of made it a mecca.
Dude, it's crazy there now. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah, tons of comedy popped up there. I
It's
mean, it became
really
a
nice.
spot.
Yeah, it's really something.
Which Austin has its problems, but at least it ain't Chicago or New York.
It does, but it's like even the downtown area where he's at and that strip that used to be kind of not great because the Velveeta room I used to play on there. It's a lot. I don't know. It's like you said. It's not really like any other major city where it's atrocious.
Yeah.
You know, you step over a couple people, but
Did I tell you about my elevator ride with Seth Meyers
No.
last year at the Tommy at the Thompson Hotel in Austin?
no.
I was wearing a shirt. My buddy Todd Rosen has a brand. You've probably seen him. It's Chad's with 2 A's.
Okay.
It's a patriotic brand. And I was wearing one of his shirts that had like America on the back with pickup truck. And I could hear this guy walking behind me down the hall. And I heard this kind of like grunt, snicker, kind of disgust. And I was like, okay. I get on the elevator. The guy gets on behind me, and I look up at Seth Meyers, you know, host of the Late Show or whatever it is, Late Show.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell he does.
They just fired the band.
Did they?
Yeah. They can't keep paying them.
So anyway, I was like, okay, Seth, why do you hate America? And he goes, I don't hate America. I just hate this expression of, and I was like, it's a big enough world for all of us, dude. You know?
Yeah.
And it was like, he kind of huffed and walked out off the elevator and stepped over the comatose dead people, drug addicts on the, you
Right.
know, on the sidewalk out there in Austin. But yeah. I don't know. Austin's turned into a comedy mecca down there, though.
It has.
Yeah, Mothership. That's a good spot.
It
Good
is.
stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff down there now, which is
Yeah.
cool. I like that Texas is becoming something now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not that it wasn't before, but I mean, every city seems to be.
Yeah.
It seems to have some cool clubs in it.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Where all can people find your stuff?
DaveLandau.com. Normal World. Check it out on YouTube, actually, if you want. You can go to the Blaze and use the code NORMAL, but you can get it on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it.
Dude, thanks for coming in.
Dude, thanks for having me.
I know you're busy. You got a tape tonight and all that kind of stuff. And we were trying to do this a couple of months ago, and it didn't work out. And
Car accident.
yeah.
Yep. Not yours, mine.
Yours.
Yeah.
And then today your battery was dead.
battery was dead.
You flew into town and you keep a car here and your battery was dead.
Yeah.
So it's always something, dude.
It's always a car. Yeah, it's nice.
Let's go do something. Let's book something somewhere.
You
and,
should.
I'll open for you.
Sure.
And I'll attempt to make your audience laugh.
We can do it. Let's just rotate. We can just
Isn't that funny? Isn't
co-headline.
that funny how comedians always threaten to go do stuff
It's going to be
together,
the same audience.
and they never do it? Yeah, it probably would be.
We should do it.
We really should do it. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit.
If we had me, you, Derek on a bill too,
that'd
I
be
think we
fun.
could make something happen.
That'd be fun.
And it would just be fun to do.
Yeah, that'd be a good hang. I love that dude, Derek. Derek was following me on Twitter, and he sent me some messages, sent me some clips or whatever. And then one day I saw him at the Blaze, and I was like, I know that guy. How do I know that guy? And it was him, and he was there for you. So
Oh, yeah, he was a fan of yours.
yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of his.
Yeah,
But,
he's very, very underrated and underappreciated
I agree.
in comedy.
I agree. Derek Richards, for those of you who are curious, go check him out. Good dude.
Yes, sir.
Good dude. All right, man. DaveLandau.com, and you can find me, ChadPrather.com, watchchad.com, where all the fun stuff is. It all goes to the same place. You can go to DaveLandau.com, and maybe it comes to mind. Maybe I'll redirect. We'll
True.
see. Who knows? Enemy of the state. We'll redirect all kind of things. And please, if you're out there watching the show and you're some kind of tech guru, please do not tap into my and Derek Richards' text message stuff. But make sure you're following Dave on all of the socials. Subscribe to his show. Check him out, Normal World. And good times, man. For those of you who want to join the family here, the ChadPratherShow.com. Type it in. Drop your email address. We're not going to spam you, but we will send you a newsletter on Fridays, just kind of let you know what's up and a big reminder. In the days ahead, we've already been doing this, but we're going to be pushing this more and more. So Chad Prather on YouTube is where most people have been getting this show, but now we have another home. It's the Chad Prather Show on YouTube, so you can check them out, both channels. One has some significant marks against it because of things I've said in the past, and the other one is like a fresh little baby that's got a powdered little ass, and we're just waiting to defile that one too. So join us over there, because you never know what's going to happen, but we sure do need the subscribers as well as the viewers, because we got these sponsors, and they put me in some very, very precarious situations if I don't deliver numbers. So please help me. Please help me. This is a cry for help. I love you guys. God bless you. Until the next time, we'll see you around. Bye.